Hey, Catherine, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Can you hear me?
I just wanted to make, yep, I can hear you. I just wanted to make sure you were good as we get started here. In a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I felt bad for our last meeting, but we felt fine.
Yeah, she was.
I was out last year and.
So was he.
You were out too?
Driving around too.
So, well, all of our monitors started flipping out. So I was like, well, I'm gonna take a drive. And I was like, I'll meander. I'm like, tell if I go, boy, did I go, there's a big tree in the way, can't get around that.
There are a lot of trees down, but interestingly enough, I didn't really notice till later this morning, I went to our backyard. And we had stuff everywhere in our backyard. I was like, "Well, we have a huge pine tree. We lost big branches back there."
Yeah, usually pine trees don't have too much.
Was that your trampoline that was rolling around town?
No, thank God. No, thank God.
I think there was more than one.
One of my trees would have fallen, it would have saved me just a whole lot. I know I would have cut it down. I just wanted, I should have gone out there with like, helped it out a little bit.
Yeah.
That would be illegal. That would be illegal.
Trees.
That would be very illegal.
Oh, I know. We ready?
We're ready, we're recording.
You're good?
We're ready
Okay.
if you want to start, yep.
We'll begin the Tuesday, July 16th monthly meeting for the Munster Board of Parks and Recreation. First item is public input. And you said we didn't get any public input, so we'll move on to administrative matters, approval of park board minutes for June 18th.
There was only one thing that I saw that was under the playground safety improvements, and it was 4 in favor, 0 approved, and there was only 3 people. That was just a little typo. That was. the
That's a
only
good
thing.
catch.
That's very good.
Yep.
You get double per diem this month.
Otherwise, I'll move to approve.
With that.
With that.
And moved and
I'll second.
seconded to approve the minutes with the amendment of the small change. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Next item are the vouchers. We have 4 of them listed. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Oh, they all look me.
Yeah, they all friends of you too.
Motion to approve voucher registers 24-7A through D.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 24-7A through D. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Next item is the July board report. Mark.
Just because we have a lot of things on the agenda, including Faith, our intern, who's got to get to a movie in the park, and tell you, we have.
Movie in the park?
Report, movie in the park.
Oh, I thought a move being it.
If there's any questions, otherwise you have a approved report for your.
No questions for me.
No questions? Any questions? Seeing none, we appreciate the report. Item C2, Town Council Liaison Report. Mr. Nellens,
No report at this time.
fair enough. We'll move on to the fun part, which is Resolution 2024-03, which is the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Adoption. And there are several documents involved in that.
Catherine is via Zoom. Go ahead if you want to speak, Catherine, to it.
Okay. Great. I am here to just help you give a little bit more information before you potentially approve the park master plan and adopt that. So we're at the end of the process. And just wanted to kind of address any more remaining questions. So I put together a few comments kind of based on some things from the last meeting and just kind of some things that Mark had maybe heard from you in the meantime. So one might just kind of be at the end of a planning process like this, when you get to adoption, maybe feeling a little bit hesitant about kind of the finality of the plan. Just wanted to kind of reiterate that the plan is really just meant to act as a guide or a framework for decision making. So if you feel like there wasn't, there's something missing, it doesn't mean that you can't add it or do it. It's not meant to replace your annual budgeting exercises and development of all those kind of detailed tasks that Mark and his team do such a good job of each year. If there's something not in the plan, it doesn't mean you can't do it. And if it's in a certain year, DNR asks us to put things in different years, but that doesn't mean that you can't shift those around as things change. So you're really not held to that in any way. Really the main goals is to kind of do this gut check, are there any major deficiencies? Are there access issues? Are people using the parks? That sort of thing, which I think we did answer a lot of that through our analysis and public input. You really have surpluses in most categories: park acreage, trails, playgrounds, youth rec fields, just doing a great job. The only outdoor deficiency that was noted was an outdoor ice rink, which I think there's justification for, residents using all the different ice rinks that are available within a 10-mile drive and around in other communities. And then as far as access issues, really your community is covered very well with park access. There were a few areas that were identified that could maybe be thought about in the future. But two of which were serviced by parks just kind of outside of your borders. People are using the parks, absolutely. 97% of people responded yes to that. And then kind of what people wanted to see kind of came down to more trails, more programming events. There was some comments about lighting and splash pad and things like that. But for the most part, it was a lot of, we like what you're doing, keep doing that and add more to it. So I did want to address, the last presentation was going through the recommendations, which was basically chapter 6, but did want to note that there are some recommendations throughout the plan that were not necessarily in chapter 6. So if you feel like that wasn't covered, one of them is trails. So on page 19 of the plan, there is a kind of a mini trails plan pointing out different proposed trail connectivity that might make sense, including like a Munster archway feature. And some of the discussion there, it didn't land in the specific recommendations table because we really kind of weren't sure, is that parks? Is that a different entity within the city that's leading that? Is that regional? So that can, is certainly recommended, but I think it kind of needs a little bit more detail, maybe a scoping study to determine what exactly those projects are and who should lead those. The pool was another one, the pool, and then also this kind of idea of the lacking of indoor recreational space. So there was a piece of the chapter 6, page 127, that had some recommendations there for kind of next steps on those two items. They're really such large issues that there kind of wasn't space within this planning process to get down into the detailed information of those. And really kind of we're recommending the pool in particular is such a kind of hot button, nostalgic, quality of place amenity, to start thinking about what you want to do next with that or not do with that really kind of probably needs its own feasibility study in itself, and kind of its own public process. And then the indoor space kind of, I think that comes down to really identifying what are the schools doing and then looking at specific sites and maybe market studies and building feasibility and things like that. So just wanted to touch on those. There were kind of recommendations for those, but they weren't tied into the table specifically for like specific years that you should be doing that. And then we also did just kind of revisions from the last meeting. Page 132, we did take that kind of, we heard you, the discussion about the playground in Centennial Park. We had shown a couple different concepts, one for a playground and one for a more adult-oriented kind of flex space that could be programmed. And we're kind of feeling through the process that was sort of unresolved. We were hearing cases for both directions. but felt like that was pretty, the conversation kind of pushed towards the adult flexible space. So we made that clear on page 132 that that was kind of the current preference, and then just put the playground option in the appendix, noting that it was explored, but not kind of the preferred. And then finally, just wanted to say kind of your process here. You know, once you approve this plan, if you adopt it, then we will send that to IDNR for their final approval. It has to be adopted by a Parks Board for DNR to then give its stamp of approval. And then that does open you up for eligibility for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. That's $700,000 with a $700,000 match, so 50-50 for a $1.4 million project. Munster has a healthy operating budget, so kind of grant opportunities are not as critical for you, but obviously always helpful. $700,000 is not anything to scoff at. So things that would be eligible for that would be like a skate park update if you chose to go that route, or splash pad or a trail project would be all eligible for those. But that would occur, you wouldn't be able to apply for that until August of next year, 2026. So that is, if there was kind of question about what grant funding can come from this. And then just generally, we have found all the different grant funding sources that keep changing across the state every few years, depending on the leadership. It's just always good to have a plan with some, you know, graphics and specific projects laid out that you can kind of make a case for if those opportunities pop up. But those are kind of the next steps to adopt and then to get IDNR approval. I can take any questions. I can't see you guys anymore, but because you're sharing screen, but if you can see and hear me, I can take questions.
I just have a comment, and thank you for that recap, because that the question that's been asked a lot has been as far as budgeting and stuff like that. So that there was a little bit of confusion on that as well. No, it's not, this is not something that is the plan that we have to do every to the letter. This is a blueprint, flexible blueprint guide, good words, good word choice. And it is important to note, thank you for the explanation, that we have to submit that to the state in order to be eligible for the grants, upcoming grants and future grants. So those are two important topics. Thank you for adding those. I just wanted to say nice job and thank you.
Great, good. And I should clarify too, HWC will take care of the submitting to the state process. So.
If you're happy with it, there's a resolution that you can consider that would be the formal approval of that plan. The other thing that I also wanted to mention early on in this planning process, we talked about slightly editing the mission statement for the department. That is included as part of this. So if you approve that resolution, that would officially change that mission statement. If you remember, it talked about making Munster the focus rather, I think they currently with Munster and surrounding communities, it's just removing that and surrounding communities. We're not saying we don't want that. Our focus is Munster.
Right.
May I add to, I don't know, I just want to bring this up again. I know, I'm sorry, I'm like keep going back to this, but the two things I brought up at the last meeting, because I don't want it to come to like where we approve this and then we say, oh, you guys were all in agreement, so it must not have been a priority. Where I still believe that at some point we have to make significant upgrades to the baseball and softball fields, and that we should consider a plan to do so. Whatever that may be, that's one thing. And the second thing was Beach Park. I personally feel that we should seriously consider a turf field of some sort over there. I think it gives people with everybody access to a field that we need for lacrosse, Pop Warner football, and other activities that would be extremely beneficial to our community that was not included in the plan. I'm not saying that has to be where it's at, but it seems the most likely place to me, just based upon what I've seen of usage and people access and availability and what makes sense to me. But I just want to put those two items back out there, just so they are not lost and they're captured somewhere somehow. That I agree. Thank you for all the work on this, as well as the staff. I know this is a big undertaking to do this. But at some point, I'm sure there's other things that we'll think about, but I just don't want to lose sight of those two specific ones.
And I mean, we can add the turf field under Beach Park, in the implementation table. Is there, I mean, is there a certain year or we can almost kind of approve it with that amendment if you're wanting to adopt today.
Well, and there is something in the plan, it's under the system-wide in your action plan on page 140, Catherine, you had to explore opportunity areas for a multi-purpose synthetic turf football / lacrosse / soccer field.
That's kind
Not
of-
necessarily having a dollar amount to that, not necessarily mentioning Beach Park specifically, but I think that it has been identified as a need. I think that that's really ultimately, I think, what we wanted in there, whether beach or any other opportunity. I think that it does cover, there is something in there, and like Mike said, it's just, this is the framework of that for us. you know.
And just a comment on that, this is one tool that could be used. And the other tool that we would really kind of push, that would fall under, would be the repair and improvement plan that we should update every year, because that goes into more specific detail, to your point, on specific parks and what we want to do and what we have actually budgeted for that. So, that's probably something that we have to talk over with Mark a little bit more in detail on specifically, those things for those parks. So those are two tools that are really helpful, just to have updated.
And this might be an additional question to what Mike just said, is that if that's the case, like if we put something into the improvement plan versus the new plan, budgeting wise, or how does that?
Well, I think what you're talking about are grand projects.
Yes.
I mean, they're multi-million dollars. I mean, to turf all the fields, for instance, or to build even a full turf field at
Yes.
beach or any site, it's gonna be a grand one. I think that at that point, that's where it has to flow into our, the town's bonding ability, which there is a cap to that. And there's other priorities that we balance and argue with that. One of our big one that it's kind of flowing into our department is the generator this coming year. We're replacing that. It's gonna be almost $1 million of that bonding authority is going right to that generator at the park, which, does help generate dollars. That helps us pay for a lot of our electric within our park system. So we don't have to pay for that out of our operational budget, but yeah, that's the process. The other idea would be to do a larger funding mechanism, through the council, and maybe Tricia has other ideas as far as how we be able to add that to the town. For instance, like when Centennial Park was fully developed, it was done under a building corporation. That's the way typically a lot of towns will build their town hall facilities or city-owned facilities many times. So those are some other options. I did also just want to mention that same table right above where I was talking about the synthetic turf for those fields. It also had, Catherine put in there, exploring opportunity to change softball and baseball fields to synthetic turf. So it is identified in that action
Oh,
concept,
thank you.
just so you're aware.
Thank you so very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate you listening to me about that.
And that could be something that, maybe as part of that grant project, maybe that could be one of those projects we undertake. We just have to explore that. Correct.
Does Pop Warner football use Beach Park?
Pop Warner currently has been using cobblestones in the
Yeah,
fall.
right, Cameron.
In the
Yeah,
spring, they'll
I've
use
seen
Westlakes in the spring for their flag season. Beach mainly has been every year, it was between Midwest Wings soccer and then between softball and baseball on the two ball fields that are there. It's packed. I mean, it could be a decision where we an option could be to say Wings, and sorry, you no longer have a home here, and we look for that kind of an opportunity there. My feeling is if we're gonna make that level of an investment on a turf field, I really think it should have lights. Because right now, Pop Warner puts lights out at Cobblestone in the fall, because they go until December 1st. I think if they make it to the Super Bowl, I mean, that's something to think about, and then of course at Beach, you're literally in people's backyards where
Backyards.
potentially you have lights, so it's just finding the right solution. But I think you're right, I mean, that would be a nice opportunity for it.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, thank you, Catherine and HWC. We have a resolution that we need to approve. That requires a motion.
I would motion to approve resolution 2024-.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2024-03 with all of the attachments and appendixes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say ayes have it. For the interest of time, I'm going to move the internship, the interns presentation next, so she doesn't have to worry about us moving a gas line at Centennial, so. So with that, she can work on moving the park.
Thanks, Catherine. I don't think you have to stay on the call
Thanks,
if you don't want
Catherine.
to.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you all. Thanks so much.
What was up on your?
Okay, I see a lot of familiar faces, but if you don't already know me, my name is Faith Coons. I have been the Parks and Recreation intern this summer. It has been a pleasure being here. I've really enjoyed it. Going into all of the events I've worked on, this is kind of just a list of what I have worked on so far. I'm not gonna name them all right now just because I'm gonna dig a little bit into them as we go. So starting on my second day of my internship, I went on the WJOB with some staff that was on there, and being my second day, there wasn't much that I had experience in yet, but I just went to observe, and then they called me on there, and I basically just stood there and smiled, but it was.
Yes, you had a very nice smile.
All you need to do.
Moving on, I've been running civic, Monday concerts as well as movies in the park. And with those being, they're different events, but I kind of do the same thing at them. So I make announcements at all of them, making sure, hand out flyers, answering any questions from the public, as well as validating parking for the band and vendors, and then helping set up and direct vendors where they need to go. These Civic Monday concerts have actually grown to be my favorite thing. I used to be really nervous at the beginning, but as they kind of continued, I became a little bit more confident in my skills, and then getting to branch out and reach, communicate with the community and just talk to everyone is something I look forward to now. Move on, I've also run a Summer Sunday concert series, which is basically the same thing that I do at all the concerts, the Monday Civic concerts, as well as the movies in the park. But in addition to handing out flyers, making announcements, I set up signs along Ridge Road, just making sure everyone knows that we have an event that day, and then setting up road barriers in the parking lot so no one is driving where everyone is sitting. Like I said, I really enjoy engaging with the community at those events. Everyone has a lot to say, so it's interesting. While Region Eats was not one of my main events that I ran, I helped on site run some stuff. So I kind of took over helping the band get set up, making sure they had a cooler with water, making sure to unlock all the bathrooms for them and anything they needed they had. As well as I walked around, made sure food vendors had what they needed to make sure they had a food run. And then also I was sitting at an info table. So with flyers for all of our upcoming events. So any questions that the public had about those, I made sure to answer those efficiently. And then a Touch a Truck, which has happened on Friday, was a really good event. It was the first event that I had run completely solo. So I contacted over 30 companies to participate in the event. I reached out to a food vendor, and we had Kona Ice there. We had a bounce house there. And so with that planning, going out to the parking lot, measuring all of the different spots and where we were going to have those cars located, and then running the event. And then something that I wasn't prepared for is people started to bring more cars that they had confirmed with me. So it was kind of last second learning to kind of move things around and make sure everyone can get a spot in there. It was a really good turnout. A lot of people had a lot of good things to say about that. And then as far as the community pool goes, a lot of different things. I've helped enforce rules on deck as a former lifeguard. I know the stress that lifeguards are on. So helping out where I can be a help is really what I've been trying to do. I've also picked up campers from swim lessons in the morning and brought them to camp with the park van. Made sure bulletin boards were updated and made those flyers that the event flyers. And then aided in making sure staff were on top of their game. Like I said, I was a lifeguard before. I get the stress that they are under, but I also understand the urgency of being a lifeguard. And so making sure that they are doing everything efficiently is something that I was kind of I kind of really wanted to make sure they were on top of that. And then we have summer camp. So there's a lot of different things I've helped with summer camp. So I've helped assign kids to pods, so making sure all of their pod requests as well as staff requests and getting them all in groups that they were with their friends and having fun. I stepped in as a counselor and I've gone on all of their field trips with them every Wednesday. And so on those field trips, if I'm not stepping in as a counselor, I'm an extra set of eyes and ears, and I am running around, taking kids to the bathroom, making sure, you know, all kids are collected and counted for. I picked up and delivered papers and supplies, so whatever camp really needed. If I made a run to the warming house or the garage to get supplies, if it wasn't there, I'd go out and get them and make sure that camp really had everything they needed. And then this summer, I have been running my afternoon sports camps. With those, we have the basketball, baseball, and soccer camps. So I've created itineraries for all of those camps and put together coach clipboards that gave them all the information they needed. So they have the itineraries, they have the weather hotline, attendance, and then tips on how to run a successful practice, as well as I created some more games for them to have. And I've had to use the weather hotline, so I've updated that as needed. I filled in as a coach, so when we have last minute call-offs and I can't find someone to run it, I have stepped in. I've run a soccer and a basketball practice so far. I've handled conflict among coaches and parents, and so that was definitely a learning experience of how to go properly about dealing with those. And then dealing with call-offs for not only staff call-offs, but also calling out camps due to weather, and so that goes into updating the weather hotline. For helping out with the teenagers, I have called up bingo, which doesn't seem like much, but when you have a whole bunch of people yelling at you, it was a little bit of much. And then I helped out with the Donna Reed lunch show, and I picked up the catering food and then served it to them. For pint-sized camps, I've helped create itineraries specifically for the Disney themed pint-sized camp, as well as the Diggers and Dent pint-sized camp. And then I've attended the camp and helped where needed. Sometimes I sat and observed and see what we can use to benefit more in those camps. And then I've also stepped in and I've helped play with the kids and just be a help where needed. And then Nerd Forest, which is actually happening tomorrow, but I've been doing a lot of planning. So with that, I've made sure we've had enough supplies to order some more Nerf bullets so the kids have enough to play with. I just picked up snacks for them tomorrow, created itineraries, created a staffing list for that for people. I have referees running the event, and then made barriers and obstacle courses for the kids to play around. And so all of that will happen tomorrow night. So a little bit on what is still yet to come. I just have 2.5 weeks left of my internship. I still have those Civic Monday concerts happening. Nerf Wars, like I mentioned, is happening tomorrow. Moving in the Park, I'm going there right after this. And then Kids Fest, which is coming up on Sunday, which will be really fun. I'm really excited to get that on-site experience. And then I just wanted to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to have this internship. Going into it, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my degree. I just graduated from IUPUI in Indy with a degree in sport management, and I was kind of, what I want to do with it. And I got this internship, and thanks to Jill, because she has been a really help with trying to figure out what I want to do moving forward. And I am actually pursuing a full-time career in recreation. So it's really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Good
job.
Good job.
Good job.
Have a good school year if you're going back.
Huh?
Have a good school year.
I'm not going back. I'm officially graduated.
Oh, you're not.
Congratulations.
You're gonna be working for a living.
You opened for a card with money. Let's go.
I'm just going to the graduation.
We would like to call for teenagers personally. I would like to. I know Mike would. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get yelled at.
I'm gonna be on our call list.
Please, I'll be a sub.
It's really exciting.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure I don't have the attitude for it. Thank you again. Enjoy a movie in the park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Hey, thank you.
One of the final probably graduates from IUPUI, right?
Yeah, I
You guys
was, this was the
disbanded
last
afterwards.
year, this, starting in the fall, they separated into Purdue and IU, so,
All right, well, then you got always that something to say.
right? So it's interesting,
Right.
it's being I graduated from school that no longer existed.
All the people from St. Joe's and Rensselaer. Okay, we'll move on to change order number 6 for the Pro Shop and cart storage.
All right, so this is the change order I've been talking about for a few months here. The one that was anticipating for the gas line to run up to the, from the existing line that comes into the park, and, we'll take it and intercept it and run it over to the new pro shop. There also was two other smaller items on, two other smaller items on here. One was installing new louvers on the gable ends of the car storage garage, for ventilation into that roof areas with the higher pitched roofs. We wanted to make sure to have that. And then also a PVC pipe sleeve that, we have a 4-inch water main. So we had to put it a 6-inch PVC sleeve, if you will, underneath what's going to be the dumpster pad, before it got poured. So we wanted to make sure to get that in there so we can have a looping system throughout all of the park side, not the golf course side of Centennial Park. So collectively, change order 6 is for in the amount of $100,361.25. And we bring it to you today with a recommendation and seeking your approval.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I got really nervous, but the most of, 90% of it is for a gas line that we're either gonna decide to go to the old building and move it to the new,
Right.
so. Mainly a gas line.
Which we'd already talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and it does also include the conduit for the electric as well. But that's the majority of this. This is almost the NIPSCO cost of this project.
Anyone have any questions on change order 6? How's the progress of the building going in general?
It's going good.
I know it's in your report, but I'm just curious. what
Roofing union was on, they were on strike for a month. That slowed down a little bit of some things, but everything really is been moving along. With this stuff in place now, I think it'll take off. You're gonna see a lot more changes because this will complete the underground work, and now you're gonna start seeing the finishing touch stuff on top where they can pour a lot of the concrete and pathways and start to see some of that cleanup. Previously, all you've seen is the buildings really going up, so.
Any questions on change order 6?
No.
Anyway. We're just gonna look at each other right now.
Motion to
Oh,
approve
there you
change
go.
order 6.
I'll second
It's
that.
been moved and seconded to approve change order 6 in the amount of $100,361.25. Is that right? Yes. Well, my eye doctor will be happy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. The next is the pool report, which is what I think I wanted to make sure the intern left early. Jill gets it. I'm sure she's gonna have a save report on here, right? No. Oh, darn it, save.
All right, so based on your input from earlier this year, we have considered extending the pool season through weekends through Labor Day after the initial published closing date of August 11th. Just to let you guys are aware of what we need to safely operate Munster Pool, it is at least one manager, although we've been having 2 on staff every day just because things have been a little crazy, as you guys all know. We have 16 lifeguards, which are split down into 2 different shifts, and then 14 attendants. That is all required just for one day. So, based on the age of those employees, that you have to include break times with that too. And when we went ahead and surveyed the 50 staff, we only had 60% of employees indicate that they are not available to stay. And we didn't go ahead with the premium pay of $3 because a lot of them are leaving for college or sports or just school in general, and they wanted to be done with the summer. But I did want to share that for week 1, at this point, it should be to stay open. There would be 6 lifeguards, 3 admissions, and 1 pool manager. So obviously that's not even enough to stay open for 1 shift of the pool. To close a portion of the pool, that's just not a consideration based on safety. It's a wide open body of water. Every place has to be lifeguard watched. We just can't take that chance of not having a portion of the water washed over. To keep the pool functioning properly throughout the week to remain open for 7 weekend days, the cost would be over $33,000, broken up between chemicals, cleaning and sanitary supplies, utilities, and pool staff. based on that, we as a staff do not feel that we have enough efficiency with staff to go ahead and remain open through Labor Day. We have tried our best, but as you guys know, with the heat and the humidity and, the behavior of some of the patrons, the lifeguards are already done at this point. So to remain open for another 3 weeks, taking only their weekends, they are not willing to do that.
All right.
And I think there's a couple other notes that Jill also, or Abby and Jill brought together is starting July 13th, out of the next 30 days after that, 27 of those 30 days have after hours parties. So not only is it our normal working day, plus the swim lessons in the morning, it's after hour party. So I mean, the staff is gonna be stretched to get to this. You know, it's gonna be pushing even to get to our probably August 11th closing date, to be honest, because Lollapalooza is in early August, and that's always a challenging weekend for us. That's out there, but I also thought it was an interesting one that of the attendance at the pool, pretty much 2 to 1 people are coming in. It's pool pass holders to 1 being people paying at the daily admission at the pool. So the majority of people who are coming are already season pass holders. So not that I know it wasn't a decision, but I think from a financial standpoint, something for you to be aware of, that those other days, even if we opened, most of our attendance 2 to 1, like very likely is going to be more season pass holders, which won't pay anything versus the daily users. So we bring this to you today as information. I don't know if you would want to make a motion to, you've already previously set the pool dates for this year, so I don't know if we necessarily need that as an additional motion.
I don't think you need an additional motion. We've already set the dates. This is just good information to have. I think you were asking for it. I don't know if Mike was asking, but I know you were asking for it. I know some of the season pass holders were asking for it. We have the answer, and now I think it's your email. You said now you can use this and say, here, this is our quandary. So I don't think anything has to do. I appreciate the report, and hopefully people have behaved a little bit better this year as opposed to previous 2, but I'm not guaranteeing that. So no, I think that's all. I don't think there's anything that needs to be done, but I think it's good information to have. So when the season pass holders come to us and say, well, why aren't you after this? Well,
yeah, we'll have
It
this. I mean,
happens.
we can share this information with a lot of them. I know between Abby and Marco, one of our pool managers, they've already spoken to a lot of the regular season pass holders out there that have kind of shared this concern in the past, and these same points have been made. So I think that it's just a general educational aspect of it to share that with everybody.
well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I lost my spot here on my whole agenda here on my phone because I printed the wrong thing. We will go to MS4 Stormwater Coordinator. Reggie,
Hi, Dan.
hello.
Reggie?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Reggie Corthals. I've been hired by the town of Munster to rebuild, put together, and get into compliance the MS4 stormwater program. Every community that lies within a watershed that drains into waters of the US has to have an MS4 stormwater permit. And there are different elements to this permit. And if you're not in compliance, it can jeopardize any other federal highway dollars, federal grants, anything. So we want to get you into where you could be. IDEM did an audit here in March. We had a number of deficiencies that we're working on. So moving forward, hopefully be in a good place. The stormwater plan has 6 elements to it. One is public education, outreach, involvement. The second is looking at illicit discharges, detection and elimination, construction sites. I was on a construction site the other day, the NICD construction site, and our area was seriously non-compliant. So we need to work on getting it where it should be, post-construction, and then your municipal operations. And this means any building that is owned and operated by the town of Munster. So that's a lot of park buildings. I've been around, I've looked at all the park facilities, so trying to get that all together. What's important for a community to have a successful program is not reinventing the wheel, okay? Park departments can play a major role in managing stormwater. And we don't have to go in and spend a lot of money redoing things. What we can do is look at what you have in place and how you're going to manage that. So looking at your education, I'm listening to this fabulous intern and what she did. There are education programs out there called Project Wet that she could incorporate in. Touch a Truck is another one that we can incorporate, that towns have used for stormwater, summer camps. So you have things that are there. And so I'm a firm believer in not reinventing the wheel. So what I'm going to do, and I've already started the process, is reviewing your master plan. Your parks master plan is incredible. And there are very, very many aspects of that plan that I'm going to take and put into the stormwater quality management plan for the town, so that you're doing the same thing. One of my other jobs, I have all these jobs, I don't know. One of my other jobs is I am the chair of the Lake Michigan Coastal Program Advisory Board for all grants and grant applications. So we want to make sure Munster is on board and is able to apply for grants. There are federal dollars now coming down from EPA that are going to help you implement green infrastructure, which is in your master plan. It can do with what you want to do with the ball fields and how you want to upgrade certain areas. So we're going to be right on board with it, and it won't cost a lot of money. And it'll just be working with you to make sure that we implement the stormwater, what we call best management practices, BMPs, into the stormwater plan. And currently, if you're not aware, the town of Munster has a stormwater management ordinance. It's ordinance number 1919. It was approved on October 23rd. I'm also going back and reviewing that ordinance based on comments from item, so that we can make sure that the ordinance identifies what you want to do in your park master plan, and that it all blends together. Park departments are crucial in communities that have to put these permit applications in place. And Munster is one of the better park departments. I live in the town of Porter. For 10 years, I was the district director for the Garden Club of Indiana, so I worked with the town of Munster that way. I spent 12 years as the item coordinator for stormwater, so I've been up here a lot. So I'm familiar with what you have going, and then after reading the master plan, I'm excited about it. So I'll probably be coming to you and saying, I've taken what you've done and I've rewritten the stormwater quality management plan to incorporate what you wanted to put in your master plan, and hopefully that we have a comprehensive document going. We had two deficiencies on the item audit, and that is in the Public Works Department. There were no deficiencies at any of the park buildings that we visited, but Public Works has an issue with the wetlands behind the building. And so I've asked the item wetland coordinator to come up. I do not want the Army Corps of Engineers with 100 yards of this. So we'll have item look at it first and then decide what it is we need to do to address that. But other than that, it's just working with you, making sure you understand what the elements of the permit are, what we have to do, and what role the park can play in that. And
Thank you.
questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Thanks, Reggie. Item that was added to the list is Humane Indiana Paws in the Park, if you guys printed it out early.
Yes, they reached out to me this afternoon when asking about, oh, can we do this again? I'm like, oh, well.
Timing's
better get
impeccable.
Something to us today, because it's only a couple months away, we're only meeting once a month, so they basically want to do very similar to what they did last year. They already have their plan for their annual Pause in the Park, it's gonna be the 31st year, it'll be Saturday, September 14th, at Community Park. They are extending the hours this year, they're having the event from 9 to 5. The beer garden, which they partnered with Three Floyds in town, they would like to offer a beer garden from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for this year's event. If you remember, last year they opened it at 9 in the morning, when they started, and we were all kind of like, well, how are we gonna, what are you gonna do very well at that time of day? So, yeah, so you can see a little bit, they've made some adjustments, made some changes. It's a nice partnership. I did put together a list of items that, if you would, allow for, to grant for them to have a beer garden in the park that day, that we would ask to, Three Floyds as the vendor to make sure that they abide by. So we are recommending the approval of the beer garden request from them for this year's event, pending receipt of their certificate of insurance, and the stipulations that we mentioned in that memo, so.
Will we be monitoring whether they abide by the recommendations you brought to their?
I will be, and.
Cause I know it's Saturday, someone's like,
Yeah, well, they did very well last year, and, the biggest one is because they also will have a police officer on site, so that handles a lot of the other issues that are on the day of. Those are typically the ones pertaining to the,
Three Floyds, they did a nice
program.
job.
no,
Yeah.
I like security.
But the biggest issues that we have ahead of time is making sure the liability, the certificate of insurance, and that the proper paperwork through the, I call them the excise police. what is it?
Yeah.
ATF. ATF, it's not the.
ABC.
I think it is.
Alcoholic Beverage Commission.
Yeah.
ABC.
I'll motion to approve the beer garden.
I have a comment. I can't keep my mouth shut. This is a huge event, okay? And you can take credit for this in your stormwater program if you give away doggy bags on that day. And you get somebody to supply the doggy bags.
Maybe I should put Reggie's presentation after this. There's a motion. We have doggy bags.
A second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. By the way, the Bark in the Park was great. I enjoyed it. So great job to everyone that put that on. I was out there enjoying the warm weather. I don't think we have anything else on the agenda, do we?
Nope. That is it.
Second.
But there's a,
Second.
I have someplace to go. I don't have any internet in my house. So I really was gonna be, I just wanna sit here. Motion to move and seconded. Second, did we get a second? Someone seconded it?
Second.
All right, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, me. I want to adjourn. I don't want to go home.